Most people assume not caring about the Super Bowl is just a preference, like saying you don't like olives or action movies. But that's not why it makes people uncomfortable. The discomfort comes from something deeper. Because when you feel nothing, while millions treat the same thing like a cultural event, it quietly exposes how much of normal is learned, not natural. And it says something subtle about the way society decides what everyone should feel. Over 100 million people will be losing their minds over one game this Sunday. And then there's a large group who feel completely blank. Not annoyed, not trying to be different, just untouched. And what's strange isn't that they exist. What's strange is how quickly we assume something must be missing in them, or that they're failing in some invisible way. If you've ever noticed yourself feeling nothing while everyone else reacts, this is why that feeling isn't just you. It's a reflection of culture, conditioning, and wiring. We act like caring about the Super Bowl is a default setting, like your brain is supposed to light up on command because everyone else's does. But nobody is born wired to attach themselves to a logo, a jersey, or a quarterback they've never met. That attachment is trained, reinforced, and socially validated. When people care deeply about the Super Bowl, it isn't really about football. It's about identity. Your brain treats a team like an extension of yourself. When they win, you feel pride. When they lose, you feel deflated, even though you, personally, did nothing. Psychologists call this basking in reflected glory, your brain rewarding you for someone else's success as if it were your own. For some people, that mechanism clicks instantly. For others, it never fires. Flat, honest. And that difference isn't about taste or intelligence. It's about how much stimulation your nervous system actually wants. Some brains crave intensity, noise, emotional swings. Other brains experience that same intensity as draining, not boring, exhausting. So for those people, a 3-hour game packed with shouting, tension, commercials, and social pressure doesn't feel exciting. It feels like work, especially in a world that already feels loud, urgent, and demanding before the game even starts. Watching sports also asks for emotional energy spent on something you cannot influence. You cheer, you hope, you stress, you wear lucky socks, and nothing changes. Some people love that ride. Others experience it as pouring energy into a void. One moment, I watched a friend pace around during a final play, and I just sat there quietly, realizing I felt none of it. That is the feeling of a nervous system tuned differently, and it's valid. Add uncertainty on top of that. Sports are unpredictable by design. That's supposed to be thrilling, but not every nervous system interprets uncertainty as fun. Some experience it as stress. So instead of excitement, they feel tension for hours over something that won't affect their life. And here's the psychological pivot most people never consider. What if not caring isn't just a preference? What if opting out of mass hype is your brain quietly refusing to outsource meaning to something you cannot control? It's a quiet resistance against manufactured significance. For sensitive people, the Super Bowl isn't an escape. It's another demand, another emotional obligation, another loud thing hijacking attention. Those parties are endurance tests. Lights, noise, chatter. 3 hours of sensory and social pressure. And for someone wired differently, that exhaustion lingers long after the final whistle. Socially, the tension becomes visible. The Super Bowl is a ritual, a signal that you belong. If you don't feel it, you're out of sync. Not hostile, not judgmental, just elsewhere. Maybe you've been there, in a room where everyone is invested, reacting, yelling, celebrating, and you're just watching people watch something. That gap can feel lonely, not because you reject connection, because you don't share this one. Most importantly, not caring doesn't mean rejecting community. It usually means you found it somewhere quieter. Books, hobbies, small groups, spaces where emotion isn't synchronized on cue. Sometimes there isn't even a deep reason. Sometimes people just don't like football, and that should be enough. We've pathologized difference so much we forget humans aren't meant to enjoy the world identically. And what really exposes the social psychology is the reaction from others, the defensiveness, the subtle insistence that you should care, the sense that opting out is a rejection. The Super Bowl isn't just a game, it's an identity marker. When you opt out, it makes others uncomfortable, not because you're wrong, but because culture built a fragile scaffolding that only works if everyone agrees to feel the same thing. So if you don't care about the Super Bowl, you aren't missing something. You might prefer calm over chaos, control over spectacle, depth over noise. Or maybe it's just boring to you, and that's enough. And here's the lingering thought that should stick. If something needs this much hype, pressure, and social expectation to feel meaningful, how real was that excitement before everyone agreed it mattered? How much of what we call enthusiasm is really learned conformity? If this made you feel understood, subscribe for more psychology deep dives like this. And if you want to support the channel, hit the join button. I genuinely appreciate it.